Gayle Weber. Gayle was the 2010 People's Choice Award winner for the Bold-Faced Liars competition. Gayle comes to us from Charlotte, North Carolina. So please welcome Gayle Weber.
It's been a little bit confusing for us today, and I know some people are upset about the changes in the workshops and the schedule. But we were just trying to keep everybody dry. And we also have a sick teller, and we're trying to make it so our sick teller can be done a little bit earlier today so that he can go and lay down and be, you know, he's got a little fever, and he's been a trooper the whole time, and so we're just trying to make things good for everybody. So I hope you'll be understanding and bear with us as we try to
She's wonderful. Hey, y'all.
Hey.
Have you ever been to the National Storytelling Festival in Jonesboro?
Yeah.
I know some of you have. I've seen you there. My husband, Carl, and I have gone 3 times, and they have all been wonderful. But this last year was the absolute best experience of my life, at least with clothes on. Let me explain. The night before the festival, Carl and I went to our little cabin up in Ashe County. It's not a real cabin. It's more like a little bungalow, about 800 square foot. But it suits our needs. From the front porch of the cabin, we have the most spectacular view of Phoenix Mountain. From the backyard, we look at the mountains of Virginia and Tennessee. It's beautiful. And like most nights when the evening allows, we were sitting on the front porch. I was having a glass of wine, Carl a beer, talking about what else but the National Storytelling Festival. And I had just uttered the words, can you imagine how awesome it would be to be invited to perform at the National Festival? When all of a sudden, a shooting star streaked across the night sky, almost close enough to touch. Carl said, quick, baby, make a wish. Hit your shirt tail on that star. So I made that wish. And immediately, I found myself quite literally hitched to that shooting star. I was whisked right out of my rocking chair by my shirt tail, bound for Lord only knew where. As we neared the Milky Way, I realized my star had slowed down, and we were floating in a sea of milky white amongst millions of other stars. And as I looked around me, none other but the Catherine Tucker Wyndham, the queen of storytelling who passed away just last year, was right beside me, standing atop a brilliant patchwork star complete with her signature bonnet. She just looked at me, and in that beautiful southern grandmotherly voice says, so you want to be a national teller, do ya? Oh, yes, ma'am. I could never fill the void that you left in the storytelling world, but that would be an amazing experience. She just said, enjoy your ride. And just like one of the characters in her ghost stories, she and her patchwork star were gone. Almost as if chasing it, my star followed her Milky Wakes and then accelerated, still dragging me by the shirt tail. Within nanoseconds, my star set me down just inside the Creekside tent in Jonesboro, Tennessee. And I was ushered into that neat little roped off area right beside the stage where the real tellers sit. I'll never forget. Bill Lepp was on stage. The crowd was rolling with laughter, and Carl was already sitting there. As I sat down between him and Jim Stoll, Carl looked at me almost knowingly and said, enjoy your ride? Oh, yeah. Whitey Mitchell, the cowboy poet, took that stage next. You know, I wonder about Whitey sometimes. Does that man dream in rhyme? And David Holt took the royal stage next. That's another man I wonder about. He can play any instrument in the world. What would make a person ever think about playing bones or a paper bag? He plays both. Google it. Later that evening, Carl and I were invited to a little get-together with the tellers. And I learned a secret there that I'm not supposed to tell anybody, so shh. But did you know that when a group of real storytellers get together and they get to telling some of their best stories, when they tell those stories amongst other real storytellers, the stories come to life, y'all. Waddy Mitchell transformed that little hotel lobby into a Nevada cattle ranch with the most amazing sunset I have ever seen. I swear to you, I could smell the campfire coffee and the cows. Then Kim Whitecamp, we were in Kim Whitecamp's house when she was growing up, and she showed us that formal living room that she talks about, the one that nobody was allowed to enter except on special occasions. Next thing I knew, I was flying through the air again, but this time there was no shooting star. This time I was flying along with Bill Lepp, and our tongues were frozen to the side of a speeding train. I tell you, stories shot around that room like shooting stars. And with every story came another adventure. And then Donald Davis spoke of Catherine Tucker Wyndham. And an almost reverent silence fell over that room until Andy Offit started giggling. And then it started. All the do you remembers about Miss Catherine. Every teller told of his or her personal happenstance with the queen of storytelling. And with every story came yet another adventure. And then it was my turn to tell my story about a shooting star and a brilliant patchwork star and my personal rendezvous with Miss Catherine. And when I was done, Whitey looked at me and said, "And since you wished upon your star, have you enjoyed your ride thus far?" And that's when Michael Reno Herald handed me the festival schedule. The one that says right here, Gayle Weber will be National Storytelling Festival's premier shooting star and the feature teller at the first annual Twilight Tales, Saturday night, 6:30, College Street 10. Oh my God. Saturday was a blur. Before I even had a chance to get nervous, it was 6:30. The sun was just starting to set as the College Street 10 announcer proclaimed, "Help me welcome Gayle Weber, National Storytelling Festival's premier shooting star." And then I was on that royal stage, y'all, telling my stories. And the crowd was loving it, and the real tellers in that neat little rope off area were all laughing and nodding their heads, and I was having the absolute best time of my life. Everybody was still laughing and talking as we walked out of the tent, headed over to Mill Springs Park Gazebo for ghost stories. And there it was. There she was. That brilliant patchwork star streaked across that night sky. That beautiful southern grandmotherly voice rang out, "Enjoying your ride, Gayle?" And as if on cue, a second star hitched me by the shirt tail and in a twinkle set me down in that rocking chair on that front porch in Ashe County. Carl just smiled that knowing smile as he handed me a fresh glass of wine. Said, "Well, baby, I think you enjoyed your ride. And I really do like that new bonnet." You too. Thank you. And now it is my pleasure to introduce a real storyteller. You've heard him already this morning. He's a naturalist. He can tell you anything you ever wanted to know, and maybe some things you never wanted to know about what goes on in the woods. He can tell you about every critter, the original GPS, the possum. You tie a string around his neck and he leads you to the nearest road. Help me welcome Doug Elliott.